friends, welcome to QX Tutorials. This is Mahesh. So in this video, we'll discuss about what is Lambda expressions and what is marker interfaces and what are the different types of methods we can create in the interface. We'll discuss in this video. Okay. So before going to start this video, so let me recall because it requires some prior knowledge on the interfaces and the functional interface and the anonymous inner classes. If you are watching this video, so please watch the video before the video, like what is functional interface, what is anonymous inner classes before listening this, okay, for the continuity. Okay, so just quickly I'll recall. So what is functional interface? So what is functional interfaces? If the interface contains only one abstract method, so that interface we will call it as a functional interface. Okay, I'm repeating again. If the interface contains only one abstract method, so you can create the other type of methods you can create, which is the default and static methods. But if it contains at least one abstract method, so that methods we will call it as a functional interface. So that's about the functional interface and anonymous inner class. So what is mean by anonymous inner classes? A class without name is called as anonymous inner class. A class without name is called as anonymous inner class, and the anonymous inner class dot class file will be generated with the syntax like class name $1 dot class. It will generate the syntax like this. If you create multiple anonymous inner classes, if you create inside the class, so it will generate the sequence like this 2 dot class like that. Okay, so just if you are watching this video directly without watching this the previous video like functional interface anonymous inner class, I'm requesting you to listen that first to understand this video. Okay, let's start. What is Lambda expression? Okay, so what is Lambda expression and when we can use this Lambda expression? Okay, so Lambda expression is a representation of an anonymous inner class. Lambda expression is an representation of an anonymous inner class. Anonymous inner meaning for all the anonymous inner classes we can represent with Lambda expression? No, we cannot represent all the anonymous inner classes with Lambda expression. Okay, so Lambda expression is a representation of anonymous inner class which is providing an implementation for functional interface. Meaning, if you are creating an anonymous inner class for the functional interface, that anonymous inner class we can represent with Lambda expression. So this is what this is the symbol for Lambda expression. Okay, opening and the closing bracket and the arrow symbol. So this is the meaning Lambda expression will represent with this symbol. Okay, so I'll recall again. The Lambda expression is a representation of anonymous inner class, but for all the anonymous inner classes we cannot represent with Lambda expression. So if the anonymous inner class is an implementation of functional interface, that anonymous inner class we can represent with Lambda expression. So you can write the definition like that also. In another way, if anonymous inner class is an implementation for functional interface, that anonymous inner class we can represent with Lambda expression. Okay, so this is just a theoretical explanation. We'll see programmatically. So we'll implement an example to understand this Lambda expression. Okay, so first I'm creating one functional interface. So I'm creating an interface with a keyword called interface. Okay, so I'm creating an interface name called today info. This is my interface. So in this interface, I'm creating one abstract function. So you know that inside the interface, we can create an abstract function. Abstract function is nothing but a function without body. We call it as an abstract function, just only declaration. Okay. I'm creating a function called display today info is a function. I'm creating this function, display today info. So it's an abstract function. I'm not providing any body for this, just I created a declaration. Okay, let me save this file. Okay. Today info.java. Today info.java. So I created one function interface. I created. Okay. Next. Just to test this Lambda expression, so I'm creating one test class. I'm creating a class name called Lambda test. Okay, so I want to run this, so I'm creating a main method, public static void main. Lambda test.java. So in the initial days, like if you want to, what we'll do is we used to create a separate class which provides an implementation for the interface. Okay, so now what we can do is, now also you can create a separate class which provides an implementation, but instead of that, so directly you can create the anonymous class you can create, and you can provide the implementation for this method. So what I'm doing is, let's create a reference for the interface. Okay, I'm creating anonymous in the class I'm creating. So in the previous video, I already discussed about this, how to create an anonymous inner class. So use a new keyword space for which interface you are creating this class, the implementation class. You need to specify that interface name, or if it is an abstract class, specify the abstract class name. Okay, a normal class name also you can mention. Okay, so which class you are creating, anonymous inner class or interface, you need to mention that name. Okay, then how many abstract functions are there? You need to override that methods. You need to override in this anonymous inner class. How many abstract functions are there? You need to override that many methods. You need to provide the implementation. So we have only one abstract method, that is display today info. So I'm overriding that method, public void display today info. So in this method, just for demonstration purpose, instead of rewriting the code, I already copied some logic. So just I'm printing the date object. I'm printing here. The today's date I'm printing. Okay, so we created the simple date format object, and we have specified the format, in which format you want to print the date information. So we created a date object, and we are printing that system.out.println. Okay, put few classes because this simple date format, date classes are there in the util package. So we need to add the import statements. We need to add. So we imported the both classes. We imported simple date format and the date classes. Let's save it. So now we'll compile this, both classes will compile, and we'll run this test Lambda test class will run. Okay. So first, the The same like in Windows, how you will do cd space the location of the dot class field. Here also, even the Mac also same. So we use a cd command and specify the location where the files are saved to compile this. Simply interact, we'll get the path. Okay. So now use Java C, and what I will do is, just before going to compile this, I'll remove the existing classes. So lambda test. Okay, so we have only two files now. One is a lambda test.java, another one is todayinfo.java. So now when you compile this, how many classes will generate? It will generate 2 classes, or it will generate the 3 classes if you compile this. So it will generate the 3 classes it will generate. One is dot class file which will generate. One is for lambda test, one is for today info interface. The second one is for the lambda test class. The third one is for anonymous inner class. So let's see Java C lambda test.java. Okay, this is some issue with the copy paste. Let me retype it again. Because we copied from the different text editor. And that's why better to read it instead of copying the code. Okay, so it will generate the 3 class it will generate. So now you can see one is a lambda test dot class. So lambda tested $1, because this $1 is an anonymous inner class and the today info class. Okay, so now you cannot run. Now if you run also, nothing will print because we removed that our logic. Right? Let me rewrite this. So we need a class called simple date format class. That's equals to new simple date format. And in which format you want to get the date, specify that. I want to print the date in mmddyy format. Okay, so this simple date format is available in import java.text.simple date format. And we need another class called date class, which is there in the util package. Okay, let's create the date object. Okay, then system.out.println format dot. So format is a function, pass the date object. Okay, I mean, just we created, still we are not discussed about lambda, just we created a function interface we created, and we are creating one anonymous inner class we are creating. Okay, so let's run this, compile and run this. So there is no any errors. So now we can run this program, Java C, Java Lambda test. Okay, sorry. So just we created the implementation we created for this display today info function, but we are not calling that. We are not calling that function anywhere. We are not calling that. So what we'll do is calling this ti info dot display today info. So just anonymous inner class is nothing but just instead of creating a separate class, so we are creating the class here itself without specifying any name. That is anonymous inner class. Okay. Display today. So we got the today info, got 11th. Sorry, it's November 17, 2020. Okay. So this is anonymous inner class we created. Now just recall the definition for this lambda expression. So what is lambda expression is, lambda expression is a representation of anonymous inner class, which is providing an implementation for functional interface. So let's see here, we created anonymous inner class, we created this anonymous inner class, which is an implementation for a functional interface, because this today info contains only one abstract function. So these type of anonymous inner classes we can represent with a lambda expression. Okay, only for functional interfaces, boss. For the general interface, like without functional interface, we cannot use a lambda expression. You can use the anonymous inner class, but you cannot use the lambda expression concept. You cannot use. Okay, so now what we can do is, sorry. So what we can do is here, if it is a the anonymous inner class, which implementation for lambda expression, sorry, which is implementation of functional interface, you don't need to specify this. For which interface you are creating an implementation, you don't need to specify this one. Okay, you can remove this statement. Okay, and you don't need to specify the function name also. You don't need to specify, because the functional interface will contain only one single function. So you don't need to specify the function name also, not required to specify. You can remove this statement also, you can remove. So just represent with lambda, opening and closing of the bracket and the arrow symbol. Okay, so you don't need to specify, you don't need to this extra bracket, you can remove it. So this is lambda expression. So we are representing the anonymous inner class with lambda. Okay, so now let's see and run it again. So you got the output, and you can see the dot class files generation also. You can see the same lambda test $1 dot class. Lambda expression is also anonymous inner class only. That in an anonymous inner class we are representing with a lambda expression. So hope you understand about this lambda expression. Okay, so the next concept, so in the interfaces, that is marker interface. So we use this lambda expressions in the some programming languages like Kotlin or Swift. So more widely we use this lambda expression. It's most very important concept in nowadays. So in the functional programming and even in the interviewers also. So nowadays they're asking many questions on this lambda expression concept. Okay, so you can pass the parameters also. You can pass to the lambda expression. For example, like here, this display today info. I want to pass the date object. I want to pass just to demonstrate. I'm changing the input parameter for this display today info function and passing the date object. Okay, so now here you need to pass the parameter, you need to pass date object. Okay, and simply printing the data object. But when you are calling this function, now we need to pass this data object. I mean, just to give an example, if the lambda expression is having any input parameters. Okay, so now we modified the interface method, which is taking a data object now. So earlier we are printing here itself. We have created a data object and we are printing the data object. Now what I'll do is I'll remove this logic from here and I'll pass this one as an input parameter to the lambda. Okay, so in this way we'll specify the input parameters to the lambda expression. Okay. Let's save it and compile and run. Required no arguments. So we forgot to import this state. So this simple date format will keep inside the lambda function. Okay, so because just we have a requirement to pass the data object. Okay, so in this way we can specify if the lambda is having any input parameters. Okay, so the next topic in the interfaces, that is a marker interface. So what is mean by marker interfaces? An interface without any abstract functions. An interface without any abstract functions is called as marker interface. So this is also one of the interview question. So the interviewers will ask what is meant by marker interface. So an interface without any abstract functions is called as marker interface. Okay, if someone asks, can you give me some examples about this marker interface? So we have some built-in examples like serializable, Java P, java.lang. Java P, sorry, java.lang. Forgot exactly the name, serialization. So it's an IO package, Java P, java.io.serializable. Okay. So you can see this serializable is an interface, public interface, java.io.serializable, and you can see there is no any abstract functions in this, right? So there is no any abstract functions in this serializable interface. So this kind of interfaces we call it as a marker interfaces. So then you can ask what is the purpose of using the marker interfaces. So the purpose of using this marker interfaces is, for example, uh, let's take serializable. This is just to inform to JVM this particular object is going to be serialized. Right? It doesn't contain any methods, but it is used to inform to JVM this particular object has to be, this particular object want to serialize. So if any interviewer asks a question like what is purpose of marker interfaces, tell the answer. The marker interfaces are used to provide the information to the JVM. Okay. In the same way, we have another another called clonable. I haven't remembered the exact package name, but let me try with IO. No. Java.lang.clonable. Because most of the times we use the IDs like Eclipse and myEclipse. Just we'll specify the class name. Okay. So let me try the package. Get the package name of clonable. So it's there in the lang package. So java.lang.clonable, spelling mistake. Okay. So you can see this clonable is also an interface, but it doesn't contain any abstract functions or the default functions or static functions. So these kind of interfaces we call it as a marker interfaces. Okay. So the next topic in the interfaces, that is the initial versions of Java. The definition for the initial versions of Java, the definition for interface is an interface will contain only abstract functions. An interface will contain only abstract functions. So this is the initial days answer for an interface. But now you should not give that answer for an interface. Okay. So an interface, now the latest answer for an interface, if someone asks in the interview. Okay. So an interface can contain abstract functions, default functions, static functions, and the private functions. Okay. So now the definition for interface is an interface will contain abstract methods, default methods, static methods, and private methods. An interface will contain abstract methods, default methods, static methods, and private methods. So if you give this answer, so the interviewer also will know that okay, this guy aware of the latest concepts of Java, because the earlier versions of Java will not support all these default, static, and private methods. So default and static methods are introduced in Java 8 version. The private methods are introduced in the Java 9 version. Okay, so let's see how we'll declare the default methods and static methods and private methods. Okay. So in our interface, for example, you want to create some default implementation for any method. Okay, you want to provide some default implementation for any one of the method. So you can use a keyword called default. Okay, void, like I'm creating a method called display today here, just for an example. Okay, so we created a default method when we are meaning the implementation class, the class which is implementing this today info interface, that class no need to provide the implementation for this method. We are providing some default implementation we are implementing for this method. Okay, so just I'm printing So this is 2020 and this is a corona year. Okay, so this is a default implementation we created, display today. Okay, same like this, we can create a static method also we can create. So simply use a static keyword, and even to call this static method, even you don't need to create an object. So directly you can call the interface dot, and you can call the methods you can call, and the implementation class also cannot override this method. The implementation class for this interface cannot override the methods, the default methods and the static methods and the private methods also. Okay, so for example, I'm creating another method called display today month, for example. It's a static method. This is November month. Okay, the same like this, you can create a private method also you can create, but make sure you check your Java version before you create the default and static and private methods. Default and static require Java 8 version, and the private methods is required the Java 9 version. Okay, I'm creating one private method like display today day. Today is Tuesday. Okay, so we create an interface and we created one abstract function, and we created a default function, static function and a private function. Okay, let's compile, and we are using a Lambda expression we are using for this anonymous inner class. That anonymous inner class is an implementation of this functional interface. Let's compile whether it will accept or not, because the functional interface should contain only one abstract function. Okay, but we create other types of functions. Let's see programmatically whether it is called as a functional interface or not. Otherwise it will give an exception in the Lambda, because you cannot create Lambda for the anonymous inner class, which is not providing implementation for the functional interface. Okay, let's compile this. Java C Lambda test. So no errors. It means still this is called as the functional interface, because definition clearly I told. If the functional interface means if the interface contains only one abstract function. Okay, you can create the other types of functions, no issue. But if it should contain only one abstract function, you can create static, private and default methods. Okay, fine. We have a Lambda test. So here what I'm doing is we created a reference for this interface, right? You can call, so ti dot, you can call this static method, you can call this default method. So first I'm calling the default method, I'm calling. Okay, then you can call this static method, I'm calling. First, let's try with these two. I'm calling the static method and the default method I'm calling. Display today. Okay. So static methods you can call directly with the class name or the interface name. You don't need to create the reference. Okay. So why we got the error is here. we are using the reference, but we are using the reference of the implementation class object. Okay, static methods will not inherit, right? The static methods will not inherit. That's why it's got an error. So you cannot call the static methods with this reference, because this reference is holding an object of this anonymous inner class. This anonymous inner class will contain a method called displayTodayInfo method. We represented with Lambda expression, and the default method is also inherited. But it's not inherited the static method. The static method scope is to that particular class or interface. So that's why we got an error. So we changed that. Instead of using the reference, we specified the class name or interface name. Static methods can be called with class name or interface name directly. So no need of any reference, right? Okay. So now let's try to call the private method. Okay. So this is our private method, display today. Day is our private method. Okay. Save this. Okay. So you cannot call this private method. We cannot call. We cannot call this private method. We cannot call. Sorry. Now see the error. Display today day has private access in today info. So we can create the private methods we can create in the interface, but the scope of that private methods is only within that interface. Meaning you can access that private method, you can access only within that interface you can access. You cannot access the private methods outside of that interface, you cannot access. So for example, now what we can do is, so this directly we cannot call from outside of that interface, the private methods inside the interface. So what we can do is, inside this today month method, I am calling this display today day. Let's see whether it will accept or not. No, this is static. Inside the default method, I'm calling this display today day method. Or not, allow or not. So it's not allowing here. So let me comment it. Okay, there is some error. Java. So lambda test. Okay, see we got today day also we got today. Today is Tuesday, November month. So meaning the private method also called. Okay, so if anyone asks in the interview like what is the purpose of the private functions, because you cannot call the private functions outside the interface, right? Yes, we cannot call the private functions outside the interface, but you want to restrict no, to call the function only within that particular interface, then we'll declare the private functions will declare inside the interface. Okay. So if you want to see the examples for this, the default and static and these private methods, we have some interfaces in the collection, right? Java p, java.util. Let's use this collection interface. So java p, java.util.collection interface. See, all these are the abstract functions. We can see the abstract keyword applied for all these functions. But if you see this remove if, okay, see this remove if method. So it doesn't have any the abstract declaration. It doesn't have any abstract declaration. So because it's not abstract. It's not abstract function. It's a default function. It's a default function, right? And the split iterator, stream, and parallel stream. All these also doesn't have any abstract. So it's a default functions. Same like this, if you see the other interface like java p, java.util.list interface, you can see some of these methods are declared with static, because these are not the default methods, these are the static methods. And if you see here this split iterator method, you don't see any abstract, because it's not abstract function, it's not a static function. So then it's a default, so it's a default function. If it is a private function, so you can see the declaration with private. So we don't have any private in this interface. Okay, so this about the interfaces. So we discussed about what is interface. Okay, so what is anonymous inner class and functional interface, and what is lambda expression. And in this video we discuss about what are the different types of functions we can declare inside the interface. So hope you like the video. If you want to get more technical videos, the Java, Android, iPhone, or the Kotlin, Flutter. So if you want to get more technical videos, please subscribe to my channel. Okay, so thank you.